Hi, today we will demonstrate what is Hosting Controller Active Directory Synchronization tool, how to install it and configure it. Let's begin with the introduction. Active Directory Synchronization tool is designed to communicate using core LDAP protocol. Large organizations who are already running Active Directory, they would like to push or have the same AD profile information with your hosted cloud Active Directory. To handle this business use cases, this tool has been designed that all the Active Directory objects like users, group and mail contact and their password will be pushed from the customer side toward cloud Active Directory. This application works in a single way communication. This means that any changes that has been made on customer side will be replicated on the cloud Active Directory, and if any changes you have made directly on the cloud DC, then these changes will not be reflected on the customer Active Directory. The benefit of the Active Directory synchronization tool is it is a very light application. It has the capability to handle a very large data without putting any extra load on the Active Directory. There is no need to have uh, Active Directory trust relation between customer and cloud DC to synchronize objects. It gives you the ability to specify specific tenants in the Active Directory for the synchronization purpose, and even further capability to specify specific objects to be synchronized cloud DC. This means that you will have an option that certain user should be synchronized and certain user should not be synchronized. So this capability has been provided by the Active Directory synchronization tool. The password has been pushed and synchronized in real time, and it also gives the option to set the synchronization interval in specific timing like 15 minutes, 1 hour and so on. The LDAP protocol that it is used is 389 and LDAP-S protocol is 636. These ports should be enabled for incoming and outgoing between customer and cloud Active Directory. So these ports should be enabled in the firewall in both location of the Active Directory. So what objects did it push or sync from customer side toward cloud, or you can say target Active Directory? It synchronize user objects, passwords, um, mail contact, and even it has the capability to map the existing user which are already existed on cloud DC. Then you can auto link it without creating any new object. Same goes for the group and mail contact. These are a very few slides just to give the introduction of the Active Directory synchronization tool. We will cover most of the part in the technical presentation. Let's proceed with the installation phase first. The application requirement is .NET Framework 4.8. It must be installed on the domain controller, and the TCP port for the communication between customer and cloud DC are LDAP ports 389, 636, 135, 139 and 445. Okay, now this is the installer of the Active Directory synchronization tool. Let's execute the installer. Remember, this is the first time I'm installing this application on the system. This is the default installation directory, and obviously you can change it as per the requirement. Okay, so here you can see two options showing the installer: primary domain controller and additional domain controller. What is primary domain controller? The primary domain controller is basically is the machine from where the attribute will be pushed toward Cloud Active Directory. And additional domain controller, this type of installation should be selected on the secondary domain controller. A customer can have multiple domain controller in his site. uh, you can say we can install two installation with primary domain controller and three with additional domain controller. And the additional domain controller, uh, it it only install a single a password hook file or a DLL in the system for the purpose to capture the password from these DC. In case a password change has been triggered from the secondary DC where the hosting controller secondary agent is running, then password will be captured by our password hook DLL. And internal DC, when it replicate the attribute between each other, then the password will be pushed from the primary domain controller. So for the high availability, I will strongly recommend that you install two primary domain controller setup on two machines, and on rest of your domain controller choose the option additional domain controller. Such machine where you install primary domain controller will require the hosting controller license key. So we'll continue with next, and that's it. It's a very simple way to install the application. We'll click on finish. So this is the interface. First section is to specify the local Active Directory connection setting. We will insert the local directory name. Insert the domain name, or you can even insert the IP address as well. Credentials. Okay, so what is universal sync group? I will explain this option in later stage. And even in some cases, if customer says that their internal policy not to use the administrator as a service account, then you can create a delegate account for the synchronization purpose. So let's proceed to create by not using the administrator account. I will create one account. I will give a name admin. Insert the password. And the tenants, on the root of the tenant, we will give or assign delegate control permission for the account which we have just added. We will select we will need to give this user uh, read, create, update and delete permission. Without this information, the all the functions or the features might not work. So we must give the create, read, update and delete permission to this delegate account on the root of the organizational unit. So it will read the information from these OU. So we can insert. Remember, I have just created a simple AD account without having any special group or admin group. You can see it's a simple domain user account. Okay, we will click on add local AD root. Let's say this is the organization unit which I want to synchronize its object with the target domain controller. This is my source domain controller, or we can call it customer domain controller. So we'll select this OU and we will click on save setting. So you can see that security group uh, has been created by the ADSync. We can view it in the Active Directory. So the purpose of this security group, type domain local, that any user that you add as a member to this group will be controlled or will be entertained by the Active Directory synchronization tool. So if there are any other user, if there are many user in this Contoso organization unit, and you, let's say, only add few user to this security group, then the Active Directory will only entertain these user and it will ignore the rest of the AD object within the same OU. So okay, now let's come toward this section, organization, universal sync group. In case you have multiple uh, 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 OU which you can specify here, okay, which you can specify and add in this section. Let me add the second one. Let's say there is another OU which we also want to push or set with the cloud Active Directory Fabricam, let's say. Save setting. So you can see that it has created, the ADSync has created another security group. So let's assume that you have a 10 different OU in the Active Directory, then there will be 10 different security group will be created in the Active Directory. To simplify this case, there is an option to create a one universal group, and that single universal group will control all the objects in different organizational unit. So let's demonstrate. Let's say I create a one security group. ADSync. Let's with name ADSync. I will define the scope local. I will copy it DN. Copy it, and we can insert in here. We can click on save setting. So you can see that the single security group has been assigned for the multiple organizational unit. Now the local connectivity has been completed. Now we can proceed and specify the setting for the cloud Active Directory. Cloud domain name. This is the name where we are pushing or synchronizing our Active Directory object. This address must be accessible from this customer side DC. Okay, so now let's start with the connectivity. I will insert the address of my cloud domain controller. Account credential. Remember, uh, we cannot insert or provide administrator account to the customer so they can connect in the AD. So you can create a delegate account um, as the using same step that I have performed on the local AD. So you can create the service account on the hosted Active Directory. I have created already this account, and we need to insert the cloud Active Directory OU-DN path, which you can provide to your customer or by getting it from the. This is my cloud domain controller. Let me get the DN of this OU. Remember, on my local DC the OU name was Contoso and Fabricam, and on my target domain controller I have set the name Contoso.cloud. So there is no requirement that the OU container name must be the same, so it could be any name. There is no restriction in it. I will say click OK. And same for the second one. Okay, so you can see that what this option mean: no default UPN suffix found. Once we insert the DN, the ADSync set the request to the cloud DC to fetch the UPN suffix information from this OU. Since there is no UPN suffix, so the system say that no suffix has been found. If there are multiple UPN suffix has been added on the OU container, then the ADSync will give you the option that which UPN suffix you want to set as a default. So let's give an example, and we set any UPN suffix on the cloud Active Directory on this organizational unit. Let's say we are giving the name contoso.com. Just an example. We give another name fabricam.com. Okay, apply, set okay. Okay, let me save setting. Okay, if I click again, now let me show you after saving the setting, because the I have already opened the interface, so I have to click save setting to populate the UPN suffix. If we click on any cloud EDDN, you can see that the option is default UPN suffix, whatever come first or whatever return first by the Active Directory, it will be set with the new account that will be created by the ADSync tool, or we can enforce that particular UPN suffix should be used with the new account creation. So we can set it. We can do it for both if you want, or you can set even different and click save setting. On the right side you can see there is some additional option, create objects. This option means that when you create a new user in local AD and you add that user to the security group, then whether this user should be created automatically on the cloud DC or not. So you can control this option. By default this option will be enabled, but if there any certain requirement that you do not want that user should be created by the ADSync, then you can uncheck this option. Okay, delete object. Enable this option if it is required. What this mean? Such user which is already synchronized between local and cloud DC, and if you delete that user from the local AD, then it should be automatically removed from the cloud AD. If this option is enabled, then this particular event will trigger by the ADSync. ADSync, there are certain or different attributes which are located in a XML file reside in the inside the installation directory. It gives you the option that whether any particular attribute you do not want to push toward cloud Active Directory, then you can exclude it. Just an example, last name or first name you do not want to push on the cloud Active Directory, then you can exclude that attribute or profile value from the Active Directory sync tool. Let me show you the path where these value are located. If you go to the Active Directory in synchronization tool installation directory, which is C program file HC directory sync, you can see there is a file sync attribute with format XML. If you open it, these are the attributes which are controlled by ADSync. Let's say you do not want to sync mobile value, then you can remove it. And even if there are any value which you think that should be included in this file list, then you can follow the same format. Okay, attribute closing and starting at, and with the exact attribute name. Let's say if you open any user, let's say for mail attribute, just an example, there is a mail attribute, you will give this name, the exact name of the attribute. Okay, showing here, you can copy mail, just an example. Okay, that how we can include any other attribute which is not listed here. But remember, you can include only such value which contains string value, not GUID or dynamic value or machine reading value. Only string value you can insert in here. Okay, moving ahead. In password sync, obviously this is one of the mandatory option that password sync should be enabled. So ADSync synchronize customer password from client DC toward cloud DC. Okay, here is another thing which I have missed, sorry. Create object, this is a regex or suffix, or if you want to say that a user, let's say you create a user Tony on client DC, and you want that on cloud DC it should be created with a specific label. Let's say with name, 3 characters should be automatically added. Okay, 0 to 9 value, the example is showing in the hint, and with specific label underscore, let's say MS. So when you create when the ADSync will create a user, let's say its name is Tony, on the cloud its same account name will set Tony, um, 3 random number, let's say 567 underscore MS with this specific regex value. Okay, AD attribute tab. What these informations are: password storing attribute. The hosting controller store the encrypted password in Active Directory user object division, and I haven't seen these attribute has been used by any other application. So these are free available attributes in the Active Directory which hosting controller team have utilized it to store the customer password hash in encrypted form. uh, let's say, let me give you an example. If a user change the password, then the hosting controller will capture the password and write the value in encrypted form and store it in the division attribute. And once the password has been synchronized and set on cloud domain controller, then this value will empty. ADSync will clear the value from the user attribute. Let me show you. For example, I'm just giving an example for this user. Let me show the user, not the group. See this attribute we have used for the, and same goes for the user linking. User linking attribute. What is user linking attribute with name desktop profile? Uh, the concept is how the Active Directory will identify the user or the same user between customer AD and cloud AD. The mechanism that we have used, that we will fetch object GUID of the user from cloud DC and store it in local AD in the user attribute desktop profile. Same goes for object GUID. We will fetch for the local user and store it on the cloud Active Directory in user desktop profile. So desktop profile value will always be existed in the user who are the member of the ADSync security group. It is the purpose to identify the correct user between customer and cloud Active Directory. So other information, I hope you will have you understand that what other information these are. It is, the explanation is pretty much the same as I have explained for the above. Oh, okay. For the logging, the control panel have a comprehensive logging. It creates a separate file for any activity that has been performed, for the password, for the user mapping, for the object creation and deletion, and even it create the audit logging. And if you want to change the location, then obviously you can change the installation or log file directory from the registry, but I will recommend that you should go with the default one. You can view the log file from this screen, as well as you can open the log file from the hosting controller installation directory, which I will show you once we have a technical POC for user object synchronization. For the auditing, any changes that you have performed in the Active Directory interface, it will be logged in here. So you can track that what changes was made in the Active Directory. It will be stored in the control panel interface, as well as in the XML file in the installation directory as well. Sync service, with the installation of Active Directory primary agent, a service will be installed in the system. Remember that this service will not be installed if you select the option additional domain controller. Service only install on the primary Active Directory, and its name is Active AD Connect Sync service. It should be running. If it is not running, then the synchronization process will not work and its status should be automatic. There is no need to have this account to log in with the admin account. It should be working with the local system account. Licensing information, you can download the SPLA report, submit the SPLA report, and it will show the current usage on this screen. Diagnose section is used in case if anything is not working, then you can check for any particular user that what problem is appearing here, and you can have a quick test run here. So this is it. We have configured the Active Directory. Now the very important part is after the configuration. Once you're done, then you can simply close it. Do not test the application without the reboot. Reboot is mandatory. You must reboot in order to load the password hook DLL in the system. What is password hook DLL? Let me show the file. In system32, there is a file with name hcpwd sync. This is the password hook file, and it is the system based DLL, which after the reboot it will load in the system. Any activity related to password will monitor or control by this DLL. If this DLL is not loaded in the system, then password will not be captured and synchronized toward Cloud DC. So remember, once you install the Active Directory, then you have to configure it. Once you configure, then you reboot the domain controller. Reboot is required for both primary ADSync installation type as well as additional or secondary AD installation. So once the system has been rebooted, then we will test the application. Okay, so system is back. Now we can connect it and continue with our activity. Okay, let's open the Active Directory interface. I always recommend that you should open the Active Directory by right click and run as a administrator. If you are connected with a system who doesn't have privileges to read or store information in the registry, then you might face uh, or encounter an error that unable to save the configuration. So I personally recommend that you always use this option, run as a administrator. So the interface has been open. So now let's go back to the cloud ED setting section. I want to show you something. You can see that there is another option, start listing, security type, the communication or enforcing the ADSync application, that which protocol it should use for the communication or establishing communication with the target domain controller. I will strongly recommend for the security purpose to use TLS option, but in order uh, to use the TLS option, make sure that the cloud, this this URL or this domain name, the certificate is running on this domain name, and export that certificate and import, provide it to the customer so they apply it in their local domain controller. Otherwise the ADSync will not be able to communicate with LDAP port using TLS secure channel 636. So this is the mandatory option. In my test lab, I haven't applied any SSL certificate, so I will proceed with the non-secure or simple LDAP protocol communication. Now let's demonstrate to create a test account in my local DC, and we will see that how and when it will create in my cloud Active Directory. The OU that I have specified in my ADSync application is Contoso and Fabricam. I will create one test account in Contoso organization. Let's say I add name Tony, give the password. Okay, the next step is to add this user to the security group that I have specified in ADSync, and which is the group name ADSync. So I will add this user as a member to the security group. It is done. So this is the interval. We can wait for 5 minutes. So the scheduler will execute to synchronize AD object. Remember, this sync interval do not apply on the password synchronization. Password will be done in a real time within 10 seconds, but this sync interval is only for the Active Directory objects profile value only, applies only for AD profile. The second option is to enforce this application to continue or execute right away by click this option, trigger now. If we click trigger now, the synchronization process will instantly execute and perform the synchronization. So if we go to the cloud DC, I will show you in this OU contoso-cloud on my cloud domain controller to verify whether user has been created or not. So you can see the user has been created. Going back to local DC, I want to show you the log file for the ADSync tool, which is in program file, Active Directory Sync, log, and these are the log file. You can see different log file will be created for different tasks. Let's say we open for the ADSync object. Okay, so here it will give you the detail information. Okay, for example, this user Tony, success mean that it has been successfully created on the cloud DC, and if there is any failure, then you will see failure error message here, and the description will be showing the exact activity that has been performed. So based on these messages, it is authentic or 100% sure. If it is saying that user has been created, then this means that it is created, because the ADSync validate the user after the creation on the cloud DC, and then we write the logging log file or update log file here. So for the first time, when the user has been created, then it publish the account with the same password. Now let's verify about the password synchronization, and the value that I was giving you an example that it stored the value in division attribute. Let me show you that value as well. Let's say we change the password for this account. Just wait for few seconds and this activity will be completed automatically, which we can verify in the event log file here. So you can see the password has been updated for the user. So it is verified that password has been changed. So now let's go back to the cloud DC. I want to show you that we enforce the AD setting that following UPN suffix like contoso.com should be assigned automatically with the new account creation. Let's verify it whether that value is set or not. So Fabricam is set, and let me see what value I have set. Was it Contoso? Okay, so second thing is there is another business use cases that how we can auto map a user which is already existed on the cloud DC. For that purpose, we will create account create in the cloud DC with the same UPN. the condition to automap a user applies on the UPN name. If UPN name match between local and cloud DC, then the ADSync will not create new user on the cloud DC. It will automatically link the existing user, but that user must be existed in the same OU which we have specified in cloud AD root path. The user must be existed in this location. So now let's demonstrate to create one account in the cloud AD. Let's see, we are going to create a user with name cloud. Just give the name cloud, an example, setting it UPN Contoso. We will create the same user in the local DC. Let's create the user. Uh, make sure that we have selected the UPN, given password. Okay, set finish. Okay, so for the testing purpose we will give some other value to the account. cloud@contoso.com, hosting controller.com, just an example, and any other AD profile you can give the value. Let's set, let make it to the security group as a member, and you know the drill, how to enforce the trigger activity by navigating to sync service and click on trigger now. So you will see, as an example, I have set some different attributes value which is not currently set on the cloud DC user profile. So this will make sure that it is synchronized with the correct user. Now let's hold for a while, few seconds, and if we open, you see the information has been updated. Now I have also told you earlier that how we link the user between, or how the ADSync will know that which is the correct user there, that I have to synchronize the object, and I have mentioned that we used an AD attribute which is not used by any other application, desktop profile, to link or distinguish or identify user between these DCs. So let me show you on the cloud DC desktop profile. See, this is the value. This value is the GUID value of the for the user on local AD or customer DC. And if we go to the local AD, customer AD, say the value will be stored for the cloud DC user desktop profile. See, this is the value. Now let me reset this account password. 0RD. Okay, I'm changing password for the account cloud, and I will show you that once we change the password, we will store its value in division attribute, and once the password has been synchronized, then the value will be clear automatically by the ADSync. So value has been changed. Let's check quickly. See, this is the value. Now let's wait for a couple of seconds. So the password has been pushed. Once it is pushed, then this value will be cleared from here. You can see this value is clear now. This means that password has been pushed toward cloud domain controller. In order to verify, we can check it in the logging file as well. If you open the password file, you see the password has been successfully updated. And if we check on the auto mapping, this log file is used if any user already existed in the cloud AD, then it will list in here. Okay, so there is another business use cases. Let's say UPN doesn't match between local and cloud DC. How we can link the user? Uh, this process is not automatic. A manual little work using interface, a minor task will required. How this can be done? As a demonstration, let's create a user. Now let me create a user. um, I will give the name manual, just a name, or let's say give a name test1. Test1. Okay, I'm not changing the UPN suffix. Let me type the password to save some time. Okay, now let's create a one account in here with a different UPN suffix. I will give the name anything, a different name, let's say test2. Even the email address is different, test2. UPN suffix, let's say contoso. Okay, 2A1, unique name. Okay, so how automap these users, or how we can tell the ADSync that map test1 with test2 account, both have a different email addresses. So now let's open the interface, ADSync interface. Come to the cloud AD setting where the user is located in Contoso. Click on mapping of, okay, click here and interface will be open. So what is the object type? We will select the right object type for user AD group. Since it is the user type, so I will select the user. We can type the name. It will load all the user with starting with these words. So this is the local user has been fetched by the system. I will manually insert the UPN for this account. Let me get the UPN. By double clicking here, just insert and save setting. By this action, by performing this action, the ADSync will automatically add this account as a member to the security group. So we will not have to add it manually. So it will be done automatically. So if we click on save, let me change some attribute value so we can verify that it is changing. Okay, so I make these changes. Now let's perform the enforce trigger now. Hold for a few seconds, go to the cloud DC, verify that whether this has been auto map or this has been mapped or not with this account. We will wait a few seconds, few more seconds we shall wait. Okay, refresh the screen and verify, so you can see that it has been mapped with this account. Okay, the same interface, this interface, the cloud AD, let's say if you trying to find any user, let's say its name test2, at contoso.com. uh, what this operation do, that the ADSync will first try to locate the user on cloud DC with same UPN, and if it is retrieve, then you can simply click save mapping button, then it will automatically add this user to the security group. And if the user with same UPN is unable to locate, then you can manually insert it here by double clicking this area, this field, account name in cloud AD. So okay, so one very important part of the ADSync tool is how to backup uh, the application settings. If you have multiple primary setup in the same site, then you will have to perform all of these configuration again. But to simplify the work, if you backup and restore the registry of the Active Directory and restore it in the second Active Directory machine where another primary agent is running, by restoring the registry will retrieve or populate all the information automatically in the system. And once you restore it, remember that you will need to reboot the system to load the password hook DLL. It is only I was referring if you are performing a fresh installation, then to save some of your time by not setting all the same setting all over again, you can just restore the Active Directory. You can just backup this area, okay, this one, the default one, okay, this area, and restore it in the second machine where primary agent is running, and then reboot the machine. Okay, in this section there is one another important feature is which I want to show it to you guys, that you can see that these are the OUs that I have added in my ADSync tool. If I click on it, there you can see some additional option: cloud OU user, cloud OU group, cloud contact. What are these? We have given a capability to the customer that they can specify a cloud OU, child OU, where user object should be created. You can specify child OU for the group creation, for the contact creation. If I show my cloud DC, target DC, there I have created some a sample sub OU with name, users, group, or even if you can give it any other name like distribution list, whatever the name is listed here on the cloud DC under the parent OU, you can give it here in the registry for the specific organization unit setting. Let's say I give the name users. So what this will do, whenever a new user will be created, instead of they create on the root of the organization, it will be created in the sub OU. Let me create, its name is groups. Let me create a test group and user, so you will see. Let me, I'm creating here on the local DC. Let me create a one security group, test group POC1, just a name, and save setting. I will make this user as a member to the security group. I would create one account, test 1 2, test 1 2. I hope, let me see. See, let me type the password, 00 shift 1 2. And let's click on finish. I will make this user to the security group as a member. ADSync. Okay, now trigger it. And these two objects, one is group and one is user, should be created in the Contoso child OU. Verify. Let's verify here. See, group has been created here, and for the user has been added here. Instead of they've been created on the root, uh, they are created in the child OU. So this action we can control only from the registry. So if you have added multiple OU, then you can perform the same setting in here. So this is why I was saying that if you have multiple machine where primary agents are running, so these settings uh, by taking backup and restore the registry on other machine will save a lot of your time, and it will make sure that every configuration are consistent and there are no error or no mistake in there. And also you should take backup the registry and keep it as a backup file. uh, in a worse situation, if the system has been crashed or you reload the operating system, then by installing ADSync and restore this registry will retrieve all the information. And there is no issue if in later stages you apply any latest version of ADSync and registry was taken backup in old days, so it will not break any communication. It will work exactly the same as it was working before. So guys, this was the a basic demonstration, technical walkthrough that how hosting controller Active Directory Synchronization tool works, what are its benefit, how easy it is to utilize it. And once you set up and configure it, then you should not be worried that it will break the communication due to high usage. It is very smart, it is a very light resource consumable application, and since it is using the core LDAP protocol, which is a very reliable way to transfer or communicate between different DCs. I hope this session was useful, but if you guys have any questions, please leave a message or contact our team. Thank you so much. Bye bye.